Hello there and welcome to this Astranti case study highlights reel. In this video we'll be looking at a set of our pre-scene analysis and mock debrief videos that we hope will aid you in passing your management case study exam. And by the end of this video you will be a step closer to passing your case study exams as we go through some of the key points found in each of our videos. So starting off, we have 5 videos for you today, and each video covers a different area of the case study. Our first video is the pre-scene analysis, and this goes over the CIMA pre-scene for the management case study exam, and the video's aim is to help you maximize your marks and perhaps most importantly, minimize your study time. Many of you have busy lives, that much is certain, and cannot spend hours and hours reading and analyzing the pre-scene yourself. So what we do in this analysis for you, so that you can focus more on your time practicing in theory and the mocks, is do the analysis, right? We do the analysis for you, and that way then you can focus on things that matter more to your revision. So in this video, I, the MCS tutor Jordan, will be going through the company profile at the beginning of the pre-scene, which will give you context for who our pre-scene company is and what they do. Let's now move on to the next part of this video, this first part, where we're going to look at Happywell's first. So we're going to skip the industry until the next video. Instead, we're going to look at, if I scroll back up to the table of contents, we're going to instead look at the Happywell page, which is on page 12. Okay, so Happywell, who are they? Well, to begin with, they are a relatively new or recent package holiday. I mean, it's been 50 years. Is it really that recent? I suppose not. But the point is that I guess if you compare it to, say, Thomas Cook, the British package holiday retailer, who's been around since the 19th century, I guess you could say Happywells are relatively new. But I digress. It's not important. Point is, they're of age. They've matured probably in the last 50 years. So they're from the 1970s, and they are specialists in foreign package holidays for Westland. So again, foreign package holidays, keyword there being foreign. They sell to, or they provision holidays to people in Westland that go to places outside of Westland. Now we're told that most families were unable to afford foreign holidays and had their holidays in seaside resorts in Westland. So the opportunity there that Happywell saw was that what if they could then make it cheaper or easier for those Westlandians to travel abroad. And so with the chartering of 2 aircraft and booking blocks of rooms in popular foreign holiday resorts, the company were able to sell package holidays comprising of flights from the Central Metropolitan Airport, which is just the name of the airport that is used in Westland, to take people to these hotel resorts in foreign countries. Now we're told there was a boom in the foreign package market, which was fueled by the deregulation of air travel, right? Deregulation, important legal situation and legal issue, if we think of our personal analysis, because it tells us that, at least at one point in time, a massive barrier to the package retailer market would have been the regulation of air travel. And that may become more important as time goes on, as the issues surrounding aviation travel become more and more in the public eye, which we'll get to in a second. Now, we're told many tour operators failed because of high operating costs, and obviously, if Happywells is still about to this day, it managed to overcome those issues. And it said it succeeded by concentrating on the quality of its holiday packages. So when we're talking about pricing, for example, or how the business tries to situate itself, it's not cost that the business is competing on. It's competing on quality and customer support. And then the company continues to provide customers a good quality experience. We're told that its holidays are regarded as offering good value for money, which again, emphasizing my point, it's not necessarily the cheapest, but it offers good value. And what we can see here is that the business is growing. It's positive, if anything, right? You might think, it's a pre-scene company, it has to have something negative. Not necessarily. We can see that overall, it seems to be pretty good. Business is growing, it's not going down, it's had a steady increase, and the forecasts are expected to increase at roughly the same rate. And we're told that now Happywell flies 32 airports in Westland to 83 destinations in 28 countries. And all of Happywell's holidays destinations are located within a 5-hour flight time from the departure airport, meaning that you're not stuck on a plane for tens of hours having to take changeovers in the middle of your flight. All right. So let's now dissect this part of the pre-scene. All right, so a few points to discuss. Let's start with this customer support one at the top here. So we know that Happywell's operates by providing good customer service, among other things. Now, this is by no means the only topic that may be relevant here. But if we've got customer service being presented as an important part of how the business operates, how it adds value, it may become a situation where you need to discuss maybe relevant KPIs that you feel are relevant for improving customer service for one reason or another. So we have things like customer satisfaction surveys, could be one, response times, customer retention rate, and conversion rates. These are just some of the KPIs I've pulled. They're not necessarily in the study text as well, by the way. These are things that you may have to come up with in the exam. We may get a question that I don't discuss here, and you may have to be creative. You may have to think to yourself, right, well, I'm being asked, what are the appropriate performance indicators for this team? It could be, the logistics team. It could be the sales team. It could be the finance team, what have you. And you have to come up with relevant KPIs for them. And so I'm presenting you with a set now. If there are others as we go through this document that are relevant, I'll bring them up. But for customer service, if you get a question asking you to explain the appropriate KPIs for customer service support person or team, these are just some of the ones I've come up with. A good 4 or 5 in your notes will be good enough to answer the majority of questions that ask this kind of stuff. Now, past that point, we're also given details about the deregulation of air travel. Our next video then will be our strategic analysis, where we look at the bigger picture to understand where our pre-scene company Happywell Holidays is going and how you can relate the pre-scene to key models from our F2, P2 and E2 topics. Now, while you may be the finance manager in the MCS exam, appreciating Happywell Holidays strategic direction will help you write more well-informed answers in the exam. So the goal here is once again to maximize your marks by highlighting some of the key points from the pre-scene, and also once again cut down your study time by performing an analysis for you to helping you draw a connection between the pre-scene and some different theories that you may like to apply or use as a framework for your revision for the MCS exam. So in this video, I will explain how we use the rational planning model to perform this analysis, and then we'll go through a SWOT analysis of Happywell Holidays. What we're going to do is use something called the rational planning model. We're going to use it to look at where Happywell is, what its current circumstances are in its business environment, looking at its strengths, weaknesses, and threats. Then we're going to look at its future. What kinds of goals does it want to achieve? Where does it see itself going in the future? Now, there's no point thinking about the future, though, if you don't know how to get there. So the purpose of this model is to analyze these two in isolation first, and then figure out a business strategy that will then join the two together. So coming to the end of the present, we now have our SWOT. So the SWOT analysis is going to go through what I believe to be some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for Happywell. This is by no means a comprehensive list. Please feel free to expand on this list yourself. Now, some of the strengths here I'll discuss. Obviously, focus on staff training and recruitment will be key for not only retaining staff, but also making sure that they can provide the services that are needed to satisfy customers, get customers to where they need to be, etc. Vertically integrating the business as well is a big strength because it allows Happywell to control the value chain more effectively. Without being able to own the hotels, it can't then control the quality of the hotels, can't control the rooms as much, the availability of them, unless it goes the way of Mangasair, where it basically rents out the entirety of a hotel's rooms in a partnership agreement. That would be one way of doing it. But vertical integration gives it far more micro-level control of those operations. It is also one of the largest tour operators. That cannot be understated. In spite of its poorer performance this year, it is still one of the largest tour operators, and that commands significant weight. As for some of the weaknesses, just to move on a little bit, we have lower differentiation from competitors, alright? Happywell's does not really differentiate itself from its nearest competitor. They both do kind of the same thing. They both focus on 3S holidays. So in spite of its strength, where it focuses on providing quality experiences, is that enough to beat out its competitor if they can provide cheaper holidays at more or less the same quality? How much is that extra quality worth to the customer? That is the question. Now, it sees value in investing in online services, but it had poorer performance and it needs to get control of its costs, and it needs a more effective marketing campaign. So with that investment in online services, maybe it can leverage that to try and address this weakness, right? Because it's currently got not as an effective marketing campaign. Or can it use its online services to develop a more effective marketing campaign? Determine what advertisements are the most effective at attracting customers. Maybe utilize social media marketing, influencer marketing. Try to understand what it is its target demographic want, who they are, and target them directly. That might be the best way of addressing this risk. So then for opportunities, what can the business do? What is available to it in the wider world? Well, it could offer tailored or niche holiday packages instead of just 3. Yes, that would help it differentiate itself from its competitors in a significant way. It could also expand its service offerings by offering different add-ons or adjusting what add-ons are available. Things like, say, acquiring a travel insurance provider could allow it to add that as part of its package offering. So you not only buy Happywell's as packages, but you also buy Happywell's as travel insurance. That might come with certain provisions as well for the customer that might be beneficial to them. It could also use data collection, as I said a second ago, to try and personalize the holidays as well as address this weakness with its marketing. And then finally, threats. What poses its risks? What poses the greatest risk to the company that it cannot control? Things like bad weather, natural disasters, or faulty machinery are things that it can't completely control, particularly faulty machinery. Yes, it can keep itself maintained, it can try and do all it can, but sometimes something just breaks and there's nothing you could have done about it. And that can lead to planes being down and unavailable, and those just need to be addressed. As well as regulations for local governments. Any changes there as far as like how hotels need to be compliant, what records need to be kept for planes, can increase the administrative and infrastructural costs for where Happywell's presently operates from. In the third video is the industry analysis. Now this is a summarization of the industry pack, which will be delivered by our industry researcher Kenny, who will guide you through the key issues that are present in the package holiday industry. Now, examiners like to see you apply real-world examples where possible, so the industry pack is a good way to eke out some extra marks. And what we'll be looking at now is Kenny's explanation of the types of services we see in the package holiday industry and why this is relevant to our pre-seen company.
Let's look at the service that travel companies provide. Put quite simply, they package holidays. This means that instead of customers finding separate flights, hotels, and local travel, they outsource this task to the travel company. The tour operator puts together these arrangements for the customer. This can either be through its own aircraft and accommodation, or it can work with local hotels and charter airlines. If we look at the different aspects of this service, flights vary based on customer service, comfort, amenities, and airport experience. Hotels, for example, have a large variety of satisfying options for customers, but can differentiate themselves through customer service, the quality of rooms, amenities, entertainment, and meals. The cost of each component is not relevant to the customer, as they will only find out the cost of the overall package. A travel company's service is not limited to just the holidays it provides. In retail stores, customers can get advice on potential destinations and receive tailored recommendations. This often involves trying to upsell, offering customers additional perks such as legroom, a sea view at the hotel, or private taxi pickup instead of a coach. Travel companies also work with third parties to offer other services, such as travel insurance, car hire, and luxuries at the hotel. While on holiday, customers may also have access to representatives of the travel company. They can report any complaints or ask for advice. There are different types of package holiday. Mass market holidays are trips that revolve around sun, sea, and sand. Especially in countries with cold weather, taking a break to somewhere hot for a few days is incredibly popular. These destinations obviously depend on where in the world you are, and include the Bahamas, Marbella, and Goa. They are sometimes known as 3S holidays, and take up the bulk of the travel market. Companies in this industry involve TUI, Jet2holidays, and On the Beach. Niche holidays cater to a smaller, more specialised market. This involves having a more detailed knowledge, and includes golf courses, for example, which would involve transporting buggies, golf clubs, and allowing customers to play a round of golf in an exclusive course. Tailored holidays are even more specific than niche holidays. In these packages, an individual specifies exactly what they want from a holiday, and the company will package it for them. This may involve providing a tour guide or access to local experts. These holidays are very expensive, and customers are not trying to save on cost, but instead want the convenience of the company meeting their needs. For example, Kuoni offers a bespoke travel service. How is this relevant to Happywell? Happywell's service is 3S holidays, appealing to the mass market, but with an emphasis on quality. It has a long history, and so has had time to build up a network of suppliers and connections in host countries. As it has grown, Happywell has gone from using charter airlines and renting hotel rooms to providing these aspects of the holiday itself. It now owns a fleet of 97 aircraft and 314 hotels. This means it is vertically integrated and has complete control over every part of the service it provides. This allows it to focus on quality. Its hotels are different, and it has roughly 4 hotels for every resort it runs. This means that while there is a consistent focus on quality, different customers can prioritize different things. It has also developed links with companies in adjacent industries. For example, Happywell has a long-standing agreement with TourCover, which provides travel insurance. As Happywell is the joint largest holiday provider in Westland, it can generate revenue through commissions on these sales. The pre-scene discusses the trend of airport lounges. These help customers have access to a quiet booth in an airport. Companies could charge customers for access to these, which could improve customer experience and allow it to generate some revenue. However, the cost of renting space in an airport will be large. The industry has a range of competitors, but Happywell will largely be competing with the other 3S firms, like Jet2holidays and Virgin Holidays. It does not want to compete on price and has advantages in its ability to offer quality. Other firms in the industry, as mentioned in the pre-scene, like Mangus Air, are not fully vertically integrated, as it rents rooms from hotels. Happywell therefore has to deal with few intermediaries, cutting operating costs. However, this does mean that Happywell overall does have higher operating costs, as it does have to manage its own hotels. One aspect of Happywell being run poorly could jeopardize the whole company, so different departments must work in tandem. Technologically, Happywell is similar to some of its competitors, but has resisted industry trends by maintaining a strong retail presence. Other companies are online only. By retaining an in-person component, Happywell may benefit from customers who prefer face-to-face booking, but it does face higher costs in terms of staff salaries and renting premises. Broadly speaking, Happywell provides the same services as its competitors. It offers 3S holidays with different amenities per hotel, but overall it's the same service. It has local links with transport firms and attractions. Therefore, it has to emphasize its quality to position itself ahead of its competitors.
Our penultimate video then is our list of top 10 issues. Now this is a compilation of what we believe to be the most common and likely issues to appear in the case study exam. And while not an exhaustive list, and not in any particular order, the list is designed to focus your revision by giving you a list of subjects that you should revise to cover yourselves in the exam. So once again, this cuts down on your study time by giving you a list of theories and issues you can prioritize on learning. In this video, I'll be going through one of these issues to demonstrate how we pick them, what to think about, and the theories you'll need to revise should you see an issue like this appear in the MCS exam. Let's start by looking at our first topic, which is, as you can see, on financing. So the basis of picking the financing topic, well, quite plainly, it's a key F2 topic when it comes to the MCS exam. There are three broad topic areas that can come up in the exam itself. It's often a combination of debt and equity finance is one of them, where you'll get asked what are the characteristics of debt and equity, what are the pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, however you might phrase it. Then the other is what impact a particular business event will have on the weighted average cost of capital. Most commonly, you might get something like a lot of refunds or some sort of returns from like mass cancellations in the case of this tour operator precinct company, where that may affect the weighted average cost of capital. Now, what are the likely issues? Well, I just said them, but basically it comes down to something like some sort of long-term project that needs funding, whether it's an acquisition of a new business, such as a hotel, or maybe opening up a new subsidiary in a new country. New projects that may be on the horizon, such as maybe upgrading the planes, or just general organic growth, them trying to expand outwards naturally to new destinations using their current business model. Then, as for when it comes to the appropriate sources, you may have to consider things like whether a rights issue is more appropriate, which would be equity finance, or debentures, which would be debt finance. And if you're asked to specifically address appropriate sources, you have to answer what the question is telling you to do. Now, as for the key points to raise, the debt and equity ratio will take you quite far, because this ratio tells you the level of business risk that you have at Happywell's. And while we're using the debt and equity ratio here, which is 37.7%, use whichever ratio you're most comfortable with explaining. Just make sure you're consistent with it. And because it's 37.7%, it's below 50%, it's around about the same ballpark as its competitor, then it makes sense to interpret this as saying that there's additional debt capacity available for Happywell's to use if it feels that it wants to use debt finance over equity finance for whatever capital project it may have on the horizon. So as far as relevant theory goes, without question, learning about debt, learning about equity are key topics to learn. Notable things about debt is that it's quick to access new funds. It's also low cost, because you're not giving up ownership of the company, but it comes with compulsory interest payments, which then of course raise the risk of the business. Conversely, equity has optional payments, and in the form of dividends, which, and mind you, I know I'm simplifying that. There are, of course, preference share dividends and preference shares and ordinary shares, and there's a difference between the two. But broadly speaking, if we think in general terms, dividends are optional depending on the type of share you have, whereas all debt with interest attached to it will have compulsory payments. So because of that, dividends are, in one respect, less risky, but there's a bigger cost to them because of the sacrificial of ownership for the company to shareholders. Finally, our last video is on the mock debriefs. So after doing all of the above, you'll need to start practicing your mock writing skills. But by breaking down a question and writing a solution are much easier said than done. So that is why we created this debrief video series. Whereas the mocks show you a solution, right, and it's for you to practice on, they don't tell you how to break down the question itself. These videos do, though. They help you break down the question in the mocks and form plans from those breakdowns to write the solution and maximize your marks during the exam time. So to that end, I will now break down the question in the first task of our mini mock to demonstrate this process. What we're going to be doing is looking at the mini mock for the Happywell Holidays pre-scene company. Now, the point of this mini mock debrief is to offer you a chance to look at how we would break down a mock question for your own use in the exam. So it's to teach you how to use appropriate exam techniques, time management, as well as planning, so that you can then use those very same skills in the exam. Now, obviously, as we go through the questions, we're going to be spending a lot more time on them than you would in the actual exam. But the point is to give you some sort of insight into some of the techniques and approaches you might want to use. So starting with our very first task, let's just walk you through the layout and format of this paper. So starting off, when you do an exam question, you'll be presented with a task. This one is task 1. And this task will be 45 minutes long, and only 45 minutes. You can't go over this 45-minute time. Once 45 minutes expire, you'll be pushed on to task 2, then task 3, and then task 4 after each 45-minute interval. So you don't have a lot of time to read the question for starters, plan out your answer, and then write it. And that is why we're doing this debrief video, is to help you manage your time. So you get to this first task. What is the first thing you do? Do you read the introduction? Do you read the paragraphs? Do you read the questions? Well, my advice is that the first thing you do for every question is that you ignore all the written information for a moment and you look at the percentages. 48%, 24%, and 28%. Why do we look at the percentages? Because they tell us how much time we should spend on each of these questions. If we've got 45 minutes and our first task is 48%, well, reasonably speaking, you would want to spend roughly about 22 minutes on this task, wouldn't you? If you assume a minute a mark. Then, of course, we have subtask B, right? So subtask B is 24%. So that's roughly about 11 minutes, all right? Roughly about 11 minutes you want to spend on subtask B. Then the last one, subtask C, you want to spend the remaining 12 minutes doing this one. So once you've got this idea of how long you should be spending for each subtask, it immediately informs you what kind of plans you need to draw out then. Subtask A is also going to require a more detailed plan than subtask B and C. But remember, if you start getting close to that 22-minute mark for subtask A and you think, maybe I should move on to the next one, that might be a good idea, because if you don't answer subtask B or C, you've lost those marks. Whereas for subtask A, you might get maybe 50% of the marks for it if you don't quite finish the answer, then get another 50% for subtask B and get another 50% for subtask C. And that is an overall better approach than trying to get a perfect answer for subtask A, all right? Now, in each task, these marks, the total of the subtask is 25 marks. So if we have a 48% question, that's about 12 marks. Then for subtask B, it would be 6 marks. And then finally for subtask C, it would be 7 marks. So with all that annoying little admin out of the way, what's the next step? Well, step 2 is to read the question, right? Ignore all the information for the moment, because all of this doesn't tell you what it is you need to do in the answer. All right, so read the questions first and then read the rest of the information to help you start planning out a response. So for this first question, we're asked, for this reason, please provide a report on options that a business such as Happywell has available to it in developing a new business model. Right, we're talking about developing a new business model, and we're being asked to use some sort of model or approach that we can use to assist Happywells in developing this new business model. Well, this is essentially an E2 topic, right? So it's an E2 topic, and it's more specifically on the topic of business models, as you might expect. But because we're talking about the development of a new business model, we're talking about disruption, okay? We're talking about business disruption or digital disruption in some capacity. What can we do, or what can Happywells do to either mitigate or engage in disruptive business strategy? Well, this is where we can use a model called the incumbent conundrum, right? Now, this model is used as a way of mapping out what a business can do to try and be disruptive. This includes things like buying a business, partnering with a business, investing in a business. And these are all approaches that Happywells could take. So what you would do basically to help flesh out your answer and make it comprehensive is you use a model like the incumbent conundrum, all right? Bear in mind, it's not asking you to use this model. You can use whatever model you like if it answers the question. But if you use one, then it gives you a framework to work with. Instead of having to come up with different options, the model provides you with the answer. So talk about the implications of buying a business for Happywells as a way of developing its new business model. Maybe buying a travel insurance provider, for example. Talk about the option of partnering with a business, whether it partners with a hotel or an airliner, right? And the implications of doing that and whether or not it would help develop its business model. You want to talk about these factors, and the incumbent conundrum can help you map those out. The second subtask then. Furthermore, in pursuit of improved efficiencies, we would also like a breakdown of what makes a high-performance team to reaffirm how the company currently develops its staff and staff operations. Once again, another E2 topic, specifically on teams. Now, you can get questions on the MCS exam about what makes high-performing teams. And this is where you want to list off good characteristics, all right? So you want to list off good characteristics of a team. Now, what are those good characteristics? Well, this is where your plan comes in, okay? When you're thinking about what this solution would include, think about it. Well, it requires a variety of skills, right? You need people who are skilled in their field of specialism. You need a leader, right? You need an effective leader. Maybe discuss in brief, because not the focus of the question, just focus in brief a tiny bit on the different leadership styles and how different styles might be appropriate for a different type of team. Psychological safety is another. So psychological safety is about making sure that people feel comfortable in their team, because otherwise if they're not psychologically safe, there may be some contempt brewing in the team, conflict might arise, and that of course makes the team overall less effective. So you want to list off these different factors, these different characteristics, maybe about 3 or 4 for a 6-mark question just to cover all your bases, get a nice range in there, and that way you'll effectively get the majority of the marks, if not all of them, depending on how the marker is feeling. Because at the end of the day, getting full marks is quite difficult because it depends on what the marker will consider a full mark response. Then finally, we're asked in our last response, or last subtask, please explain through the use of cost management model how we could make Happywells more efficient while maintaining the quality of our service. Right, so cost management model is the key word here. Then it's about efficiency while maintaining the quality. Because remember, in our business model, from the pre-scene, we need to maximize revenue, minimize costs, while maintaining a certain level of quality for the holiday service. So how do we do that? Well, we had been told to use a cost management model, which is a P2 topic. There are a bunch of cost management models. We have TQM, which is a quality management model, which is used for also managing costs. But in this question, what we've done in the solution is that we're going to use the business process re-engineering model as our example. But don't feel like you have to use this model. You can use whatever one you think would fit this response the most appropriately. And so that is essentially what you want to do for the first few minutes while you're reading the question, is to get these short plans out about the question, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what information you include in here, the specific skills, the types of leaders, the psychological safety, however you apply it, these are still going to matter, right? The use of a model, the use of a cost management model, all of them are still going to be used. It's just the application of them might vary depending on what's in the supplementary information. But first, you need to make sure you understand the question. Because if you go reading this first and then get to the questions, and then you have to go back and read it again, because like, oh, wait, hang on, I got the wrong end of the stick. I need to go back and review the information and make a plan off of it. It's not going to work. You're going to be wasting time. So once you've had a look at the questions, now you go back to the beginning and start reading through. We're told we're a finance manager at Happywells, and we're logged into it. Okay, that's nothing, right? It's just contextual information. We don't need it. What about in the paragraph, though? So we're told due to market forces, we are subject to and a desire to improve our profitability. The board wishes to consider how Happywell can develop or adapt its business model. Now, this doesn't really tell us anything. It's just kind of restating the question. We're told that our major competitor, Magnus Air, has recently announced a deal with Tech Solutions, a provider of enterprise digital marketing and research solutions. Okay, that there doesn't really give us any additional information other than that our competitor is doing it. So this is where now we will go to the reference material because we're told to see attached. So as a little bit of advice, when it comes to these questions, sometimes this information here isn't really all that valuable, all right? It can often just be a bit of context, a bit of fluff that CIMA have put into the question to make it sound more realistic. Because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a simulation of you being the financial manager, sitting there at your desk, and you get a message from your senior manager and you have to respond to it. Of course, without the marks and the time limit involved. Well, maybe a time limit, but I digress. So this is more to just sort of make it feel a bit more natural in some respect. But what you need to now do is look at the reference material, and pretty much all questions will often have some sort of reference material that you can read through. And we're expected to use this reference material in some way in the solution. So let's have a quick read over this and make some quick notes. So this article is about Magsane's announcement about a key deal they're having with Tech Solutions. So we're told that Magsane has announced an investment of 480 million West Arian dollars in the enterprise technology provider Tech Solutions as part of a keyword here, joint venture that gives both companies access to each other's products, services and clients. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, we're told that Tech Solutions is currently one of the fastest growing businesses, and obviously that offers the ability to leverage cutting edge technology, cutting edge research, or better yet, just the most modern approaches when it comes to marketing, because the fastest growing companies tend to be on the bleeding edge of those kinds of approaches. Now, a prominent business analyst stated to the press that this represents a bold move by Magsane to modernize its business model, so keyword there being the modernization of a business model, and open the door for new innovative market research methods. We're then given some information about the share price, showing how positively it affected the business share price, and some words from the Magsane CEO saying that it was necessary to ensure the long-term future of Magsane amidst the increasingly challenging industry conditions and changing consumer demands. Which makes sense given what we've seen in the pre-scene about the marketing expenses relating to Happywells and how they didn't completely translate into increased revenue for the business during the 2022 financial year. All right, so the joint venture. When discussing the business incumbency conundrum, all right, remember we have topics on the use of partnerships. So when you're discussing partnerships and whether it's appropriate for Happywells to engage in a partnership, you can cite this aspect of the reference material, okay? Because we've got here essentially a partnership with Tech Solutions, and you can say, well, to what extent does this partnership help a company like Happywells? You could bring up, right? So let's say bring up the marketing expenses for 2022. All right? Because that would serve as good justification for why we should maybe switch up our business model a bit. Get some sort of partnership with a experienced marketing provider, marketing company, who is able to use the best techniques, the best technology to improve the company's ability to reach customers and convince them to go with Happywells' products. Maybe instead we buy this business. You know, what are the issues with Magsane operating with a joint partnership? Well, or joint venture rather. Well, the joint venture means that they share aspects of the cost. You know, they've invested equally or in a certain percentage amongst each other with the partnership. But if they bought the business, then Magsane would have full control over it. But then that comes with its own issues, and of course, it's more expensive. So those are some of the aspects you can play, some of the factors you can play around with when it comes to the solution. What we're going to now do is hop on over to our next presentation where we'll go through the solution plan for this mini mock task and show you how you would plan out a response to this in a much cleaner style. That way then you can see what you need to think about when structuring your solution before you start writing. And that now brings us to the end of this highlights reel for our case study videos. However, these are not the only resources you will have available on the Astranti case study course. This course is designed to help you pass the case study exam primarily. It's there to minimize your study time to give you the best chance and allow you more time to revise the most important topics, the things that you struggle on, and we believe it is good value for money. Starting with the pre-scene analysis then as part of this course. What you will get in the pre-scene pack is what you've seen today. The pre-scene analysis videos, the top 10 issues, the strategic analysis, and the industry analysis, as well as some pre-scene questions. These are all part of the pre-scene pack, and they will set you off in the right direction. At Astranti, we've been making these case study materials for students for over a decade now, and they are consistently one of the most popular products we offer, which many students have said were key to helping them pass the exam. But what if you want more? What if you want more, like, say, 7 mock exams? Marking and feedback on those mocks. additional support from our team, the exam technique video series to help refine the writing style to a fine point, masterclasses, live masterclasses that you can use to interact with tutors and other students to get some support. All of this, including the pre-scene videos previously mentioned, are a part of the premium level course. And as another bonus, if in the unfortunate event you do not pass the exam, premium course students are allowed a double pass guarantee. Don't fret though if you don't want all of these products. What if you just want the mocks or the pre-scene analysis videos? Well, you can do that as well. You can just purchase them individually if you would prefer. And so with that, we've come to the end. And so I and everyone at Astranti wish you all the best in the upcoming management case study exam. And if you want to find out more information about us and about the case study course, you can visit us at astranti.com/CIMA.